Kerner, and you're watching BB50 TV, the place to be to get the guidance, support, and tools you need to make the second phase of your life the best years of your life. Do you ever have moments where life feels really hard and you find yourself feeling so overwhelmed and stressed out, you keep wishing things would just get easier? Well, today's guest, New York Times bestselling author J.J. Virgin, says, when life feels hard, don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. J.J. Virgin is a celebrity nutrition and fitness expert who teaches people how to lose weight and master their mindset so they can lead bigger, better lives. She is the author of 4 New York Times bestsellers, The Virgin Diet, The Virgin Diet Cookbook, J.J. Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet, and J.J. Virgin's Sugar Impact Diet Cookbook. J.J. hosts the popular J.J. Virgin Lifestyle Show podcast and regularly writes for Huffington Post, Rodeo Wellness, and other major blogs and magazines. She's also a frequent guest on TV and radio and speaks at major events. In addition to her work with nutrition and fitness, J.J. is also a business coach and founded the premier health entrepreneur event and community, the Mindshare Summit. J.J.'s memoir, Miracle Mindset, explores the powerful lessons in strength and positivity that she learned after her son Grant was the victim of a brutal hit-and-run accident. What most people would see as the worst thing that could possibly happen to a child and his family, JJ saw it as an opportunity to turn it into the best thing that could happen to her family. And she's here to share the 7 powerful lessons that she's learned from her experience, so you too can have the courage, strength, and resilience to not just survive, but thrive during the hardest moments that life has to offer. JJ, thank you so much for being here and welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, when I was preparing for my interview with you, I actually reached out to my community and I said, hey, I'm going to be interviewing J.J. Virgin. What do you want me to ask her? Like, what do you want to know? And of course, they asked the same thing that I think everyone kept asking you when you went through this experience, and that was how did she do it? You know, how did she sort of get through this experience? And I wanted to just start by sharing an excerpt from your book. You said, I realized that without being aware of it, when Grant was in the hospital, I've been drawing on lessons that I learned the hard way throughout my entire life. Using the same mindset and techniques that I'd used to face previous challenges, I built my business. I helped thousands of people lose weight and get healthier. I not only survived the worst year, but I thrived. And then you later go on to say, because of the challenges I already faced, those difficulties had forced us to step up and gain new capabilities and increase our tolerance for stress. I'd love for you to talk about how the challenges in your life really sort of prepared you for this event. I think sometimes when we're faced with a challenge, we really have 2 choices. We can completely let it destroy us, or you sort of chose to see them as opportunities for growth and empowerment. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I want to be clear too. It's like in the moment, you're not going, awesome, opportunity for growth, you know?
Right.
I mean, that's like,
right.
You know, it wasn't like I was kind of cheerleading my way through this. It was the scariest thing ever. But, you know, think about a time, Melissa, that everything was just going right in your life. Things are amazing and you are just growing and learning so much. Doesn't happen, right? I mean, we grow, we learn when we are challenged. And every time you have to step into a situation that scares you, where you have to like get your courage up and step into it, every time you go through one of those, you get stronger and you become more resilient. And it's like you have a zone that just continues to expand. You're like, oh, I can handle that. Oh, I can handle that. Oh, I can handle that. Right. And you just continue to expand. And what was so interesting is our current like assessment of whether there's an issue going on in our family is anyone dying here? If no one's dying here, we're like, it's cool. We've got this. And you just realize so much of life is really that perspective. And I was fascinated after this whole thing happened because they kept going, how did you do it? And I'm thinking, I don't know. You know, if you'd said to me 5 years ago, you're going to do this, you're going to launch a New York Times bestseller, sitting bedside by your son in a coma, I go, no way, no possible way would I do that. But, success leaves clues. And I really started to look at how did I get through that. And the deal is I had a lot of strategies, and it turns out very science-based strategies. There is so much science around grit, around tenacity, around resilience, and the fact that people who master those qualities are happier, they're more successful, they lead better lives. It's not that they don't face stuff. We all do. These last 4.5 years, I faced just ridiculous stuff going on. You're going to face it all the time. Maybe not that extreme, and I sure hope not that extreme, but even every day we have things that come up that could either, put you in a corner crying, or they could get you stepping up. And it comes down to how you show up in life. That's the differentiator. It's not not having things happen to you. They will. We know that for sure, right?
Mm-hmm. Why do you think, some people don't thrive? Some people, it literally consumes them, and unfortunately they sort of go downward. I mean, it was really like you took this experience and you flipped it, and you said, I'm going to choose to see it as an opportunity to make it the best thing. But some people, whether they realize or not, they choose to have a different perspective. Why do you think that is?
They don't know better. It's how I've always approached diet and lifestyle is no one wants to be in poor health. No one wants to be overweight, but they don't know better. They're being taught misinformation out there. But in terms of mindset, they're just not taught anything at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you tell me one time in school you were trained to how to be more resilient, or how to be more courageous, or how to use gratitude as a life skill. Never one time, right? Like, you look at what we should really be learning: how to have great relationships, how to manage your finances, how to handle your health better,
right,
and really how to build your mindset. I was very clear when I got through this that your mindset's a muscle. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have never been introduced to any of that. And they think that, like, how you think is how you think. What you have is what you have. You're kind of a victim of your circumstances. But in my 20s, I met a woman, and I was a personal trainer, and she was my client. And she said, hey, she wanted to know why I was in graduate school, because it was like my third graduate school at the time. And she goes, what are you doing? I go, I want to be more successful. I want to impact more people. So I'm staying in school. And she goes, that doesn't necessarily make you more successful. I'm like, it doesn't? Really?
Yeah, I remember you talking about that in your book.
Yeah,
that's a great lesson.
Isn't that what you do?
Yeah.
And so she said, I will teach you business. I'm like, excellent, right on. Because she was a massively successful female entrepreneur. And this was 25 years ago. There weren't a lot of role models back then. Mm-hmm. And I actually moved into her house to learn this. And I was launching a bigger health business. And she started teaching. And I thought she was going to teach me, how to market, how to sell. Nope. She taught me mindset work. For months. And I was getting so frustrated because I was like, when are you going to teach me the business? She goes, you will never get where you want to be in your business or your life if you don't develop your mindset. It will stop you every time. And so I changed the way I thought in my 20s. And honestly, that has made the biggest difference in everything. And my kids have it too, because I raised them, they've been around it. Yeah. And it's interesting. I queried my health community last year. I said, if you're not where you want to be in your health, like, why not? What is going on? And I thought, they're going to say I can't give up the sugar or blah. I love my pizza, whatever. Right. I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy. Well, whoa, hold the phone. Like, if you don't feel good enough, you're not going to put your health number one. You're not going to take care of yourself, right? You're going to put yourself last. Mm-hmm. And no great strategy on health is going to fix that one. That has to start from you realizing you're worthy, you building that mindset that comes from a place of possibility and asking the right questions and being strong. And so that's when I went, I really have to figure out how to teach this, how this works, because I knew that I had it and I'd been taught on it, but I didn't know how that really, like, it was so in me, it was automatic. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly where you need to be with all your stuff, with your health habits. I always get asked, do you cheat? And I go, no, it's not in me. I did before, So in this is the one above that. When I think about health, I think about nutrition, fitness, mindset. And ultimately, when you master the mindset, the other stuff actually gets pretty simple.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you say about feeling worthy, because that's something I hear a lot in my community. I don't feel I deserve it. I don't feel worthy. And we have to make that shift first. If the goal is to lose weight or eat better or exercise consistently, it starts there. I think people have it backwards. They're like, just give me the meal plan. It's like, unless this changes, it's just going to be, you're going to be on that cycle.
Yeah, it's another diet, another meal plan. I mean, there is a reason that there are how many diet books out every single year?
Right.
And there's a reason for this. It's like, it's not about the diet. Yeah. You have to decide that you are worth, putting first. When my son was in the hospital and I knew I had to keep my business going so I could pay for the hospital bills because I'm the financial support, and that I needed to be there 100%, I knew that the only way I could ever pull that off was through extreme self-care. Was on top of everything I did, my self-care came first, above it all. And people were like, I can't believe you were working out in the hospital, because I was running the hospital stairs. And I can't believe you were eating healthy. And I'm like, man, I couldn't go down. I had to be that healthy. If I was sick, I wasn't going to be walking into the ICU to see my son with a hole coming out of his head into his brain. You huge infection risk.
Yeah, that was actually going to sort of be my next question to you, is sort of, you talked about the extreme self-care. And I think so many women just intuitively do the exact opposite. Oh, my son needs my attention, and they completely put their own needs on the back burner. But you went way the other way. And you talk about exercising at the hospital. You were staying at a hotel nearby so you could get the sleep you needed. You were like extreme about the diet. I don't look at it extreme because it's like, that's just how we eat. That's just clean eating. But some people, like, she went to like an extreme diet. You brought a cooler, which I love because that's totally something I would do. You made a comment in the book, like, people were saying, hey, just eat a little pizza. And you said, no, I can't do that. What is sort of, what advice can you give to the mom who's listening, who maybe she's not in that crisis mode, but she's constantly, my kids, my kids, my kids. What can you say to her to make her realize that it's backwards if you're always putting them first?
Well, what's interesting is, think about what you're teaching your kids when you do that. My younger son is 19 now, and he's off at college, and he is the best healthy eater. And I've got the greatest hack there because I just have him order off my Amazon Fresh account, so I totally police what he's eating. But he's really a healthy eater. Why? Because he saw what I did. And, I think about parents. Every parent wants their kids to be healthy. I can't think of one parent to go, nope, I hope they're not healthy. Every parent wants that.
Right.
How to get your kid healthy? You be healthy. You be healthy. And what was interesting in the hospital is, it wasn't like it took me more time to eat healthy. It took me time to eat. I just made sure that what I was eating was healthy. And, yes, I fit in exercise. But we're talking, I do, high intensity interval training type of exercise. So maybe at the most, some days it was 15, 20 minutes on the stairwell. Some days I went to the gym and it was longer. But that also gave me more energy and focus throughout the day, right? And then I made sure I had time for sleep. If I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have been as effective, productive, or been able to focus. And I probably would have gotten sick. So it wasn't really that it took more time. What's critical, though, is that these things need to be in place before this happens. You're not going to get into a crisis situation and go, all right, now I need to start working on my diet. There's no way. And so you just realize our life is a journey of improvement, right? Every single one of us really is on a self-improvement journey. And I think that where we make a mistake is we try to tackle too much at once in that self-improvement journey. Where I look at this, and it's how I built every single program, is they're all science-based, and it's the little shifts that swing the big doors, the little hinges. And so maybe the first thing you do is start swapping your breakfast for a good healthy protein shake in the morning. And then you make sure that you fit in a little bit of burst training every other day. And then maybe you do something to help lower your stress hormones like meditation or tapping. You just one by one put in strategies that become a habit. And, people want to change 180 degrees in a day. Well, my son was in a coma and I made a decision in the hospital to get him to 110%. That wasn't going to happen in a day or a week or a month or a year. Yeah. You get someone from basically, he was basically maybe 10%. He was the lowest Glasgow coma score. He had to start all over again. Who am I? How do I eat? How do I talk? How do I walk? Everything. You do that 1% at a time. And now, 4.5 years later, I can look back and go, in so many areas of his life, he's better than before the accident. And very few is he still working a little bit on the memory stuff, but for the most part, 110%, but 1% by 1%. And that's how we build success. Yeah. 1% by 1%. And every single thing you do is something that you can sustain, becomes a part of your life.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you talk about sort of doing it in layers, because it's a lot more realistic for people. I think people can get their head around that. I can make one change, sustain it, and then I make another and sustain it and keep going.
Yes.
You talked a lot about the importance of self-talk and managing your self-talk, when you were going through this experience with Grant and, the rest of your family. And you talked about how you had a friend come to you. She had a vision, and she said, Grant came to her. And he said, tell my mom I'm going to be okay, but, tell her to take care of herself. I just want to share an excerpt from your book. You say, I felt even in this state, Grant could sense my mood, so I worked hard to manage my fear and my self-talk. If Grant was going to be feeding off my feelings, I wanted to make sure they were healthy ones. Can you talk a little bit about, how your self-talk was so crucial during this time? Because, you're in an emergency state constantly. And it's so... I think naturally the negative wants to start. The negative voice always wants to start. Why was that so important for you to manage that?
First off, Grant, he was the kid that the morning I was pregnant with Grant, I knew it. I looked over at my husband. I said, I'm pregnant. It's a boy. He's like, yeah, right. I have been so in tune with both my boys. And so I thought, gosh, I cannot let him think that he's going to be anything but 110%, right? I mean, I kept telling him, honey, don't worry. We got this. We're fighting for you. You're going to be 110%, And meanwhile, he's got bones sticking through his skin and a tube out of his head. And he said to me, the gray man came down and asked me if I wanted to live or die. And I was already over talking to Grandpa, and it was really nice over there, but I kept hearing your voice. And I would come into the hospital, and if he was stressed, his blood pressure would come down. So I knew that my physiology, we were connected. And I also know that what you focus on expands. And one of the most powerful ways to shift your state is by asking the right questions, because your brain's going to fight to get the answer. So my question every day was, how do I get to 110% with him? How do we get him to 110%? Because then my brain's like, how do we do it? How do we do it? How do we do it? Right? So that's just the key thing. We can do that with anything that we do. Just ask the right question. It's a very different outcome. How do I help my son survive is very different than how do I get my son to 110%. How do I get through this is very different than how do I thrive through this and make this my best, worst year. So we can practice this one every single day. It's kind of like someone saying, oh my gosh, I have to go do that, versus, oh my gosh, I get to go do that, right?
Right. Yeah.
And early on, and this is a great little tool, I had that mentor I lived with had me wear rubber bands around my wrists, right? I have rubber bands on my wrists, and she would have me anytime I thought a negative thought, snap them. Well, I thought I was going to draw blood by the end of the first day. You don't realize that if you are not actively managing your mindset, right?
Yeah.
We are bombarded now more than ever with so many negative messages. And unless you actively work against that to surround yourself with positive, I mean, they're going to get in. They're going to get in. So I don't watch the news. This whole garbage with all the politics stuff, I'm not listening to this, you know?
Right.
It will impact you.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
There's no way it won't.
Yeah. So we have to train ourselves, essentially.
Yeah, and we're trained to look for the train wreck. I mean, let's face it, you know? It's like you drive down the freeway and there's a big car crash and everyone looks. So you really do have to train yourself to focus away from that and into the light, right?
You talk about in your book how you kind of said at the beginning of the interview, you know, you didn't sort of have the awareness that you had, you know, you had learned these lessons through your challenges. It was sort of after reflecting on the experience, these 7 lessons kind of came to you. Can you kind of just, you know, walk us through what each of those lessons, you know, are?
Okay.
And,
yes,
you know,
hard.
And, you know, and how they sort of like how they've sort of impacted where you are today and how they've impacted your family.
Yes, I'm looking to see if I have my actual book. I do, and I have my gratitude journal too.
And you got, I see his Grant's illustration on there.
Yeah, Grant's art is right there. And what really happened, you know, I've been talking about this for, so long now, and it's really gotten refined as people have asked me, and I wanted to really figure out, how do you handle things? Because every day we have to handle things. Yeah. This is extreme. Yeah. But every day we have to handle things. And every day I hear from so many people, they just feel stuck in their life because they're afraid to move forward, you know? So it's like, what is it that allows someone to harness their courage and overcome the fear?
Right.
Is it that allows people, some people just handle stuff and they make it look effortless and other people crumble. And some people just show up bigger. It's all mindset. You go and look at all of it, and you can have some of the most talented people and they're broken. No one knows them. You know, what's the difference? What is the difference? So that's what I was struggling to find. And so the lessons were, and this one, you know, this seems to resonate with everyone, is don't wish it was easier, make yourself stronger. And that really is a big lesson of resilience, is you're going to have to just keep showing up and showing up and showing up. I just was at an evening event with Brian Tracy, and it's like, I thought, gosh, so many of the lessons he's taught over he's what, 80, his lifetime, are just things that are, we all in personal development have been studying, and it's just, you're going to fail. The only people who don't fail are the ones that don't step up. They don't try. But if you are out there swinging at the bat, you know, the person with the most runs has the most strikes. It's just the bottom line. Right. So that's the big one. Got to put your limitations will become your life. Now, I love this one because it really comes down to, when you think about that, asking the right questions and being open to possibility. For Grant, when we were at the hospital, they'd already kind of decided how far he was going to go, right? The orthopedic surgeons were like, well, he's got a crushed heel. That's a game changer. We don't think he'll ever walk again, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, wait, hold it. You know, what would you do if Kobe Bryant were here? Do that, because he's an athlete. He absolutely will be running. He's not going to have any problems here, right? But they would have pigeonholed him because that's what they knew. Right? I mean, that's what they saw. So you've got to be so careful with all that, because it's what you tolerate is how you will live. It's what you accept. And so when you expect more and create this idea of possibility, it will shift everything for you. Now, one of the things that we did quickly with him and continue, it's one of the things I've always done in my life, is I just get into action. I say you can't course correct standing still. And to me, it's about taking inspired, imperfect action. It doesn't mean that it's necessarily that you're going down the perfect right path, but you can't figure it out unless you're in, you know, on the path. Like an airplane pilot has to course correct the whole time. So I hear from so many people that they'll start, you know, when they get it perfect, or they get another degree, or it's like, no, just start now. Just start now and figure it out. like when we were really looking at doing this book and the documentary that I did and the course, I was not really sure what this would look like. I still am not totally sure on who the best audiences are,
Yeah.
and you just don't know until you do it. Sometimes you just got to put it out there.
Well, one of my favorite sayings is clarity comes from engagement, not thought. So you can get so stuck in like the what ifs, but you don't know because you might think something might happen. You take a step and you're like, that's not even close to the direction I want to go, but you didn't know till you took the step.
Yeah, you have to test it. The only way you test it is to do it.
Yeah.
And you never know. I mean, it could be the best, it could be the worst, but either which way, if it's the worst, you just got you learned a whole lot that will make you better at the next one.
Right.
Because again, I never have improved doing something really well. I've improved going through the challenges.
Right.
Little hinges swinging big doors. Again, I have focused all along the way when I leave the hospital at night, and this is something I do every night with my fiance, is like, all right, what were the wins for today? What was good today? And it gives you a framework for the day. If you start the day with gratitude, what are 3 things I'm grateful for? And you end the day with what were 3 little miracles, 3 little wins for the day. It really helps just spin that day because, hey, things are hard. There's a lot of challenging stuff, especially if you're trying to show up bigger in your life. And, if you're a parent, that's definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Gosh, and they should really do movies that don't portray this whole parenting thing like it's some kind of easy button, right? And where's the manuals anyway? It was so funny. I remember when I got sent home with my first baby, I'm like, where's the like no instructors, guidebook or something here? But then I have Grant coming home with a traumatic brain injury, and there's really no guidebook, no guidebook. The next one, and this really has to do with courage. And what I find with courage is what will help you really be courageous is your purpose. And when I was in the hospital, I had such clear purposes, like save my son, make him better than he was before, and make this book land huge so that, not only will I have a big impact out there, but that I will be able to help him with whatever he needs. And it's if you want to take the island, burn all the boats idea of what do you really need? What will push you through that courage? And it is the purpose. Purpose will make you do things you never would have believed you could have done. And the more you do those things, the more you develop resilience. It's like mindset CPR, courage and purpose build resilience. And then one that I practice, as you know, in Mindshare is that a rising tide lifts all boats. Is that the biggest thing that we can do is to both help other people, but also ask for help. It goes both ways. It's a 2-way street. And most of us, I find, we really like to give help, but asking for help is kind of, but it is one of the most strengthening things you can do. It's super vulnerable and builds tons of strength. And man, I had such an amazing community because I was willing to ask for help. So that is a big one. And then the biggest lesson for me of all was forgiveness. And so it's forgiveness will set you free. And one of the big lessons that I learned after the fact, not before, was that forgiveness is an active process where you really have to practice empathy. And until you do that, you really haven't forgiven. And if you haven't really forgiven, you will carry that around with you, stored back in your closet, and it will just crush your joy. And over time, those things compound and they create real problems in people's lives.
You talked a lot about, you share some very personal things in your book. So I really admire that. And when we talk about forgiveness, you kind of went through the experience of having to forgive certain people. And one of the people was the woman that hit your son. She hit him, she left him there, didn't call for help. And I think, you were asked what a lot of people, I know in my community have asked, like, what happened to that woman? Did they find her? Was she reprimanded? And you admitted, in the moment you were just like, I'm focusing on 2 things. I'm focusing on my son. I'm making sure my book does well so I can provide for my family. And then afterwards, you started to realize that there were some feelings of anger and resentment that were sort of still there.
And you talked about sort of actively forgiving her. And what I really admired about your approach was you talked about the gifts. You said, I really tried to focus on the gifts. And I think not a lot of people would see, like, what's the gift? My son was hit by a car. He was almost killed. Can you talk a little bit about some of those gifts? I mean, it's just such an amazing perspective to have. What were some of this? What was the silver lining, in this experience?
And again, one thing for everyone to realize is in the moment, you're not going, all right, what is the gift? So, these things take a while. But as I went through this, and the first thing that you do in forgiveness is really charge that person with the crime and then really feel it and get it all out. And then go back and put yourself in their shoes and practice empathy. And then look for the gift in the situation. And there are so many gifts that have come out of this situation. It is amazing. I mean, I was sitting around the table with my two sons, Bryce and Grant. And Bryce is 19. Grant, who was hit, is 20. We all agreed that we were better because of this. That, I mean, in our family that we have each other's backs. That there's nothing we won't do, to help each other. We had the most amazing Thanksgivings and Christmases in the hospital when he was there because it's not a superficial holiday, man. Thanksgiving, which is all about gratitude, became a real holiday for us when we were in the hospital, being so grateful that Grant was alive and that we could continue to help him get to 110%. And, I think we all know that we are capable of such bigger things. I mean, the biggest thing I know about all of us is that we're stronger than we think. And, we just don't challenge ourselves enough. There's something, especially, and I know I did this a little bit with my kids. It's like you want to make their life easier for them. Mm-hmm. As a kid growing up, I mean, I faced so many challenges. I was like, I don't want those for my kids. They won't have to go through that. Well, the thing is, that's exactly what they need to do. They need to go through the challenges. They need to learn that they can handle these things. You're never better than when you're challenged. When Grant was going through the last couple years, it's been brutal. He's severe traumatic brain injury. It's been suicidal. It's been horrible. And I said to him, I go, this isn't going to be easy. No one said it was going to be easy. This is going to be the hardest thing you ever did. And you can do it. And he's like, okay. When I was trying to coddle him, he was getting so depressed. He felt like he had no purpose. The minute I turned it around on him and said, this is up to you. It's like, boom. And so that's been a big, big lesson for me to see and it's really helped me handle much more in my own life, like dumb stuff that again, part of the challenges with all of us in our family is we tend to look at things that people get bogged down in. We're like, really? That's bothering you? That really,
Yeah, you have a different lens on now.
Such a different lens. And it can be interesting. I mean, Grant's been to the other side. He had a real near-death experience. He didn't know what they were. I mean, he describes what it's like, and he sees things that most people wouldn't see. And I'm like, wow, that's okay, interesting. So, I mean, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't have something that's come through this that's helping me be better in my life.
One of the benefits you talked about was being more present. I remember you saying how, you journal every day and you kept saying, I need to be more present with my kids. I really need to be more present with my kids. And then all of a sudden this happens and you're like, okay, it's forcing me to be more present. Can you just comment on that?
Yeah, you always got to be careful what you wish for, right? So it was interesting. Right before this whole thing happened, I was at a speaking seminar and they were talking about your hero's journey. And I'm thinking, I don't have a hero's journey. And boom, next day I get a hero's journey. But the thing I really wanted to be was more present. And I was always living out in the horizon, which of course we all know you never can reach the horizon. It was always the next big goal, the next thing. And I really wanted to be there more for my kids. They'd come and talk to me and I was on the computer while talking to them. So disrespectful. I could just, makes me bummed at myself for doing. But it really forced me, like, when your kid's hovering between life and death, you're looking for every single aspect of they're going to be okay. You're completely 100% in the moment with them. And I really kept that going forward. I'll catch myself trying to swing back out to the horizon, but it's like what will really help you stay present every day is what went well today? What were the little wins today? Because it forces you just to kind of stay in your day and stay present instead of either getting anxious and moving into the future or depressed and going back into the past.
Can you share like some examples of wins? Because I know some people are listening and they're like, well, she's JJ Virgin. She's amazing. And of course she's going to have some big wins. Like, can you just share an example of a simple win? Because someone might be thinking like it has to be like this amazing thing that happened that day, but it can be simple.
Oh my gosh. Just having time. Like I've been in the middle of doing a book launch and it's been a very challenging time for us. And, you know, just having time last night to lie on the couch with my fiance and watch him sort of addicted to Homeland is awesome. You know, that is like an amazing win. It's just something as simple as that. Like those are the things. I'll get a text from my 19-year-old son. He's never gotten in trouble once in his life. He's always gotten great grades. I mean, I'm like, who is this person? And he'll send me these texts. They're like, Mom, I'm so proud of you. And I'm so lucky to be your son. I'll show to my fiance. I'm like, look, yeah. But those are always a little, oh my gosh, every time. If I happen to nail a dinner, you know, that's a little win.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not the big things. It's these little things that happen. If I do a Facebook Live and someone like has some cool comment to me, that's a little win. You know, that just it's little. Yeah. They're little things. The big things. Gosh, you know, you get more joy from the little things that happen every day. Really, those are the things that are transformative. I mean, when it gets down to it, life's pretty simple. If I'd rather be at home than anywhere else. I'd rather like just kind of be with my family and work out and watch Homeland and have good dinner. You know, it's like that's a win.
Awesome. And it's such a simple thing that you can do to just keep yourself in that state of gratitude, that positive state. And it's just, I mean, it really is simple. I mean, I have my little journal right here. I do it too. And just takes like, you know, just a few seconds, but it really is such a great technique and tool to just keep you in that state.
I've got another one too. I'm going to turn my down.
Let's hear it.
Okay. If during the day you are just feeling like, you know, you're starting to get irritated or angry or something happened that started to take you down, take out your phone and text someone and tell them what you appreciate about them. It is amazing what it will do.
That's awesome. I like that. That's a good one. Nice, quick, simple.
Yeah.
You one of the things that sort of resonated with me in your book is you talked about how, you know, when Grant got out of the hospital, you know, like most moms, you sort of had certain goals you wanted your kids to achieve. And, you know, one of them was to finish high school. And you really wanted him to continue on that path. And you talked about how you started to realize that maybe that wasn't part of his journey. You talked about him going to school. He had a bad experience with a bully, you know, unfortunately, someone saying something awful to him, but maybe not so unfortunate because it really course corrected him and made him say, maybe this isn't my path. And you talked about sort of letting go of the typical teenage milestones. Can you share some advice to parents who are listening who are really kind of like stuck in like, you know, there are parents that are like, okay, I want my child to finish school, go to college, you got to get a real job, whatever their definition of what a real job is. You know, you need to get married, you need to have kids, blah, 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 blah. What do you say to that parent?
You know, it's so funny. Like, I have one son who wants to be an engineer. Well, of course, he's going to college because of that. But honestly, unless you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer or an accountant, I don't know why anyone would go to college. I just don't. I don't know why. I don't know what you're getting from it at this point. Right. So much, you know, and I think that the biggest successful thing you can do as a parent is raise a kind person who takes responsibility for their life and is happy and has a purpose, whatever it is. Their purpose is to like be the best barista. Awesome. Like, honestly, I've always been that way about my kids. I never was like, they need to go. I did try to push Bryce to Stanford, I'd admit, but just because he is so super smart, he's not challenged where he's at. But only because I wanted him to be, challenged and have purpose.
Right.
But, I looked at Grant because I have a friend whose daughter or son is basically failing out of high school. They're trying to put the poor kid in all this college prep and everything else. He can't do it. He's got a learning disability, and the mom is so focused on getting him into college. I'm like, he's not going to be going to college. Why are you pushing someone into that?
Right.
We as parents, if we can help our children find their unique ability in life, what thing they would do, whether they were, whether they were paid to do it or not. And hey, if it's video games, guess what? There are actually jobs you can get in the video game world, and help them find their purpose and the things they're really happy doing. Like for Bryce and Grant, it was like, how do I expose them to as many things as possible so they can see the things that they truly love? It's not going to be what I truly love. Grant absolutely loves hydroponics. He just loves it. I kill plants. And Bryce wants to be probably a math professor. Cool. Like, to me, that's, as a parent, if you've raised someone who can figure out how to do what they love and support themselves and their family doing it, win. Yeah. And it's got nothing to do with your agenda and what you really want to do. And, I watched my ex-husband's family pushed him out of what he really loved and wanted to do, because in his family, you either went to medical school or you went to, you became an attorney. You were a doctor and attorney, that's it. Mm-hmm. And he should have been, he was a massive tennis player. He's one of the top in the state at the time. He should have been on the tour. Instead, he became an attorney. He hated it. Now he's back teaching tennis because that's what he should have done in the first place. And, that's, you get one shot at this. And I'm sure at the end of all of it, you'd rather have a life well lived doing what you love than one where you made a ton of money miserable. Like, who cares?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that. I think a lot of parents need to hear this message. We got a lot of moms in our community.
Here's the thing that I think a mom can do best is help your child be open to possibilities, expose them. I always exposed my kids to as many things as possible, but then, my mother made me take piano. I hated piano. I hated every minute of piano. I'm like, why do I have to do this? Like, why? I don't understand. Yeah. After a couple lessons, it's clear I hate it. I have no talent here. I love tap dancing. Can't I just do that? Why do I have to do this thing that you feel you want, Yeah. And so I think our job is to expose them to as many things and help them find that stuff that they love.
Yeah, I can relate. I was forced to play the organ, and it was only because we inherited it. Like, somebody has to play it. So it was Melissa, and I absolutely hated it. So I can relate.
God.
As we kind of come to a close here, JJ, can you share maybe like 2 or 3 action steps just to kind of just get people started? If they're like, okay, I'm loving what you're saying. I want to change my mindset. Just, can you give us some real tactical things that like we can just implement like right now?
Yes, I love tactical things. And what I would say is this: I'm going to issue a challenge. I'm going to issue a 7-day mindset makeover. If you're trying to get into a better place in your health or your relationships or your career or your finances, start here first. I challenge you to do this. And at the end of the week, look at how you feel about whatever area that you're really trying to improve in. And I bet you things have shifted, because that's what I see over and over again. So first thing in the morning, you pull out that journal, like we both just did our show and tell of ours, and write down at least 3 things that you are grateful for. Just, 3. And you can do 3 things, 3 people. At the end of the day, do those 3 little wins or 3 little miracles. It's great. Where I like to do that at the end of the day is I like to actually share it with someone. If you've got kids, this is awesome to do at the dinner table. Oh my gosh. And then during the day, pull out your phone and text someone and tell them what you appreciate about them. Do that for a week. See what happens. It's crazy how living in gratitude will impact your resilience and your happiness and your mental state.
Yeah, awesome. Simple. So easy. What's a final take-home message? maybe something we haven't talked about yet that you want to share?
A take-home message that we haven't talked about. Well, I'm going to go over the health route since we've been talking about everything else.
Okay.
Because I see for so many people that their health is what's holding them back. And since it sounds like we do have a lot of moms, and even if you're moms with older kids, I can tell you that when you show up and take care of yourself, your kids totally notice this. It will massively impact how they do. If you want your kid to go off to college and eat healthier, eat healthier. And just put it out there. I never created a war zone for my kids with food. I just put it out there, and I didn't have a bunch of crap at home, so they couldn't eat it anyway. But, that's how they learn to do it. And again, if you show up as the person you want your kids to be, you'll be amazed at what happens, because success leaves clues. They'll start to notice.
Awesome. Good note to end on. Thank you so much for your time today, JJ. And thank you for having the courage to share your story. It's a huge shift from your previous books that are more focused on like nutrition and fitness, and you got really personal and raw. And I was just totally like sort of in awe of your story. And so thank you for having the courage, because it's super inspiring.
Thank you. I so appreciate it.
Now, before I go, I want to know what's resonating with you most from today's episode. Let me know by posting in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure you sign up for my free workshop, 3 Major Mistakes Blocking Women Over 50 from Getting Healthy and Losing Weight, and what you can do differently. Go to betterbeyond50.com/workshop to reserve your spot. Here's what you'll discover in this free workshop: how to reset the 3 key hormones that are blocking your body from getting healthy and losing weight after 50. Why the things you've done before, like dieting in the form of food restriction, portion control, and calorie counting, and simply exercising more, no longer work. Well, the truth is they never really worked. They just gave you temporary results in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. Why losing weight doesn't mean you're actually getting healthy, and why you must get healthy first to lose the weight naturally and keep it off permanently. Plus, you'll learn about the 4-step holistic lifestyle system that hundreds of Better Beyond 50 members are using to reset their bodies, to gain more energy, sleep through the night, and lose weight safely, easily, and naturally. Again, go to betterbeyond50.com/workshop to save your seat. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next episode of BB50 TV.